At the very beginning, we see a house near which there are several parked cars. The course of events is transferred directly to this house, and we see the great man who is now going somewhere. Suddenly, this guy noticed something in front of him and stopped with great excitement. It turned out that he actually found some kind of suitcase in the house and doesn't understand why it's here. Then they show us a photograph of 3 people, and the guy thinks that it would be better to ask the Ajuma tomorrow. A moment later, he is already standing right next to some door and is just thinking about something. While he was standing at the door, he suddenly remembered that he forgot to collect the daily reward in his favorite game. He opens the door and realizes that when a person becomes dependent on something, he loses self-control. Entering the room, he paid attention to the fan, which right now is just standing there and spinning. Also continuing to look around this room, he drew attention to some girl who was currently sleeping. Apparently, this guy, who is our main character, was not happy with the fact that this girl was sleeping now, and he decided to wake her up. However, this guy first decided to find out if she was sleeping, because apparently this guy needed something from her. In response to his words, there was no reaction from the girl, and she just silently continued to sleep, or she didn't want to answer him. Realizing this, our main character decided to put on some very cool headphones, and also decided to try a delicious pie. At the same moment, this guy is perfectly aware that right now he is becoming dependent and cannot do anything about it. He understands that his addiction is connected with his stepmother, and apparently he doesn't even hide it and is only proud of his peculiarity. After some time, the sleeping stepmother begins to wake up because the main character is behaving quite loudly. Morning came and our main character, wearing glasses, approached his stepmother to find out whether she slept well that night or not. At the moment, the stepmother is busy preparing a delicious breakfast, and with a smile on her face, she says that she slept well. Just like this guy. She decided to please this guy, and tells him that she prepared the Korean national dish for breakfast for him. Unexpectedly, this guy wasn't even happy about this. He just tells his stepmother that he thought that she would cook curry and not this. The girl in turn reminds this spoiled child that he already ate curry yesterday, and variety is a very good thing. She tells him that the Korean national dish also tastes very good, and he should try it himself to see for himself. A moment later, the two sat down at the same table in the kitchen and began to eat. Suddenly, the guy with glasses noticed something unusual. It begins to seem to him that his stepmother is starting to look at him strangely, but according to her, she only wants to know if he liked the food. The guy listened to her carefully, and still it seems strange to him. He makes it clear that he is not at all comfortable eating when they are looking at him closely. In response, the girl did not say anything, and only continued to look into the eyes of the naked protagonist, and at the same time she began to smile slyly. The guy got tired of this awkward silence and decided to say that even if he eats this food, he will get indigestion. We learn that our main character's late father left him a new stepmother named Kwon Hee-soo, who is now sitting in front of him. Now we are watching 3 cacti with different names written on each of them, and the guy says that after everyone calmed down, they began to live together. Then the guy suddenly decided to remember the day when his stepmother was introduced to him, and that day was so good that he can't forget it. In this guy's childhood, his first impression of this stepmother was not the best because it seemed to him that she emanated coldness and severity. At the same moment, the stepmother finds out the name of our main character, and it becomes clear that this guy's name is actually Jiwon. At that time, it seemed to Jiwon that Kwon Hee-soo was very dangerous because she almost strangled him with cannonballs when he didn't expect it. This is all because, besides, she was very beautiful, and besides, she always wanted to have a son, so she would not miss her chance. Suddenly, Han Ji-won heard a very loud scream. In fact, it was his stepmother who decided to attract the attention of this zombie who was drowned in his thoughts. Kwon Hee-soo decided to remind our main character that he still needs to eat all the beans, so he shouldn't put it off. The stepmother decided to help her adopted son and extended her chopsticks straight to his plate to take beans and feed him. When she had already managed to grab one bean with her chopsticks, she began to stretch it to this guy's mouth and asked him to open it wider. However, our main character, in turn, remembers that he is able to go to the potty on his own, which is why he reminded his stepmother that he is not a child. But still in turn, Kwon Hee-soo makes it clear to this guy that she absolutely doesn't care about this, because for her he will always be a little child. Jiwon understands that arguing with this woman is useless, which is why he immediately decided to open his mouth and eat this bean, accepting defeat. The stepmother asks him to chew well and wants to know if it tastes good, and the guy, so as not to offend her, says that it tastes quite a bit. At this moment, Kwon Hee-soo enjoys the appearance of the main character, and sees that he has grown quite big. She believes that it is all because of the beans. Having swallowed absolutely all the food that was in his mouth, he decides to turn to his stepmother and ask her something very important. It turned out that he just remembered about the suitcase and wanted to clarify why this suitcase was standing in the living room. You can see how the girl tensed up. From the expression on this strange girl's face, it is clear that she is now very confused and is trying to justify herself by coming up with an excuse on the fly. Kwon Hyasu understands perfectly well that she won't be able to come up with an excuse, and she understands that the guy is already an adult and independent, so she wants to say something. However, fortunately for this girl, their conversation was interrupted by her phone, which received a notification. She took it in her hands and realized that time flies quickly. She says that she is already late for work, so they should talk after he returns from work, and the guy remains unanswered. To begin with, the stepmother decided to enter the bathroom. She had already opened the door, and before entering, she told Jiwon to come back from college early. After that, she immediately went into the bathroom and decided to remind the guy to eat all his beans, and reluctantly the guy agrees to do this. Then we are shown Kan Jiwon himself, who continues to sit alone at the table and understands that he has never in his life wanted to know the taste of soybeans. After some time, our main character, having already changed his clothes, walks around the yard of his college with his friend, according to whom it is hot outside now. Jiwon says that he is not hot, and his friend thinks that he is mistaken for skinny, although in his opinion he is more muscular than the main character, and he is still hot. Then this strange guy decides to show our main character his bump on his arm and continues to talk about how he is quite muscular. Han Jiwon continues to look at his friend's hand and doesn't even know what to say so as not to offend this guy, and at that moment the conversation of other students is heard. We see a guy who once again approached the girl and says that their classes are over, so he wants to do his homework, but she doesn't want it. Our main character, looking at this strange picture, cannot understand at all what this guy wants from this girl, which is why he asked a question to his friend. His friend says that that guy named Sunbae is just trying to get this girl to go to lunch with him. He continues to do this even though she always refuses. Jiwon, in turn, understands that a girl named Suyeon has a lot of invitations to go to dinner, but his friend thinks that this is not so. Then we see how Suyeon turned her attention to Jiwon and immediately began to run straight towards him, leaving the guy who was talking to her behind. After making sure that Jiwon paid attention to her, Suyeon approached him quite quickly and wanted to know whether he would go to college or not. The blue-haired one, in turn, noticed her actions and believes that this is all real madness, and he wants to know the protagonist's opinion on this matter. The blue-haired guy tells Jiwon that Suyeon is asking Jiwon out on a date, and he's now wondering what the main character managed to do that she took such a step. This blonde was already tired of these guys standing and talking to each other, which is why she came closer and decided to attract Jiwon's attention. Suyeon approached the guy and started whispering something to him. She wants to tell him something that she wants to see this time. However, this Sigma made it clear that he was not interested in all this, which is why he simply left the girl late and said that he promised his mother to return home early. The blue-haired man now considers the main character a complete idiot and asks him to tell his mother that he will be late, but the guy says that she will tell him something important. Han Ji-won once again made it clear that he is leaving here right now, and his friend still cannot understand why exactly he decided to do this. Looking in the footsteps of our main character, this guy begins to consider him a real mama's boy because in his opinion, it is completely wrong to act in this way. The guy doesn't understand how Han Ji-won could even refuse Yoo Soo-yeon, and he doesn't understand what the hell his friend is doing right now. Then we see the main character on the bus who, looking mysteriously out the window, remembers how his stepmother promised to always be by his side until he went to college. Meanwhile, the guy began to feel sad and was very much focused on the fact that they had never had and would never have such a conversation. After some time, our main character has already reached his house and has already begun to open the doors to go out, and at the same time, he is interested in what they are going to tell him. Having entered inside his apartment, he actually became very interested in why it was so dark inside, and at the moment he was looking around to figure out the reason. However, he realizes that he can't see anything at all, which is why he took off his shoes and began to slowly wander around the apartment in search of Kwon Hyasu. Then suddenly we are shown a switch that Ji-won pressed right now, and fortunately the light in this room began to turn on again. After the light finally turned on, the guy saw a real mess, just like in a Valorant player's room, and doesn't understand what it is. Suddenly our main character remembered about the suitcase that was in the living room just yesterday, after which he decided to see if it was still there. However, to the guy's surprise, this strange suitcase was not in place. Now he can only look at one point and guess where it is. Realizing that there was no suitcase, our Han Ji-won began to worry a lot about something, as if he began to understand what really happened. After that, the main character immediately threw his bag aside and began to run in some direction to find answers to his questions. A moment later, this guy began to run straight to his stepmother's room, and on the way he remembered that this suitcase had been there in the morning. Having reached this door, our main character, being all excited, opened this door at great speed and immediately began to call his stepmother, trying to figure out where she was. Fortunately for Jiwon, his stepmother was in this room, and right now she is just standing and looking at him, as if she had been waiting for him here for a long time. She saw the very alarming state of the main character, which is why she began to worry about him and decided to ask the guy what happened to him. She noticed that Han Ji-won was sweating a lot and decides to once again clarify what happened, and the guy in response only silently looks straight into her face. Our main character decided not to waste his time saying anything. He just silently attacked his stepmother to hug her because he thought that she had left. Of course, she liked the fact that the main character decided to hug her, but she wonders what happened to Jiwon because he should explain the situation so that she understands everything. In response, this guy decided to tell the true reason for his concern. He tells her that he thought that she had already left him alone. He began to worry after he didn't find the suitcase anywhere, and also when he saw that the lights were turned off everywhere, and Kwon Hyo-soo had just put the suitcase back. The guy asks her not to scare him in this way anymore because he doesn't like it, and the stepmother, in turn, promises the main character never to leave him. After listening carefully to his mother, the main character decided to clarify whether she would definitely not leave him in response. She confirmed her words and said that she would not leave him. Han Ji-won was convinced that his stepmother was not going to leave him, after which he decided to ask her to stay with her tonight because there are monsters in his room. Of course, for Kwon Hee-soo, this was a real shock. Now she can't understand why this guy wants to stay with her that night. Our main character tells her that he wants to sleep in this room because he is really very scared to be alone now. After some time, we can already observe a satisfied guy who has laid down on the bed and is about to fall asleep because he has achieved his goal. Meanwhile, the door to his room begins to slowly open, and light comes from another room, and apparently someone is about to go inside. It turned out that it was his stepmother, who right now silently came to this guy to tell him something, and with her actions, she woke him up. Han Ji-won drew attention to this girl, and it was a real shock for him that she decided to wake him up in the middle of the night because it was unexpected. Then we again pay attention to the stepmother, who right now is thinking about whether she can conduct a test drive together with our main character. A moment later, the girl lay down on her bed, and now these two are sleeping in the same room, so no monster will be scary for them. We again see our main character who cannot sleep, and just looks thoughtfully at the ceiling, not believing that Kwon Hye-soo allowed him to sleep here. Being next to Kwon Hye-soo, the guy feels that he is starting to get nervous right now, and it is because of this that he cannot fall asleep. Then Han Ji-won decided to look at his stepmother to find out if she was sleeping right now, and apparently she had already fallen asleep because she wasn't moving much. Realizing this, the guy decided to approach her to say something in her ear. He means that right now he knows about something and is going to share it. Our main character tells the sleeping girl that he was very worried about the fact that she would disappear when he was sleeping. However, he also says that he doesn't want to lose his stepmother, which is why now he doesn't even want to go far from her. He of course understands that it is absolutely impossible to do this type of thing, and it is even possible that his stepmother despises such actions. However, the main character makes it clear that when his stepmother is next to him, he always experiences very strange feelings, and it is difficult for him to understand what it is. Then suddenly the events are transferred to a completely different place. We are walking into a large building, and it is raining heavily on the street right now. We see two people, and the guy notices that it's raining but doesn't know what to do in such a situation, and at that moment the girl next to him realized that he forgot to take an umbrella. Meanwhile, the girl, about to take her umbrella out of her backpack, tells the guy that her mother put this thing for her, and the guy looks at her in bewilderment. Taking out an umbrella, she thinks that this guy doesn't know what it is, and then begins to say that this thing protects people quite well from the rain. Then he decides to ask the girl if the two of them can walk to the store under him. After his words, the girl next to him suddenly became thoughtful. She says that they can walk together, after which the guy silently decides to take this umbrella into his own hands, thereby surprising this girl with his courage. Then we see how this girl couldn't stand it and became very embarrassed, saying that she couldn't do it, but the guy reminded her that they would only get to the store. The girl decides to tell him that this umbrella is small enough, and that is why they will have to cuddle together, and in the end they will all get wet. After her words, this girl already began to open her umbrella. Her words seemed strange for the guy, after which she was already going to move away from this meeting. The girl silently began to leave with an umbrella, and after this, the poor guy began to develop complexes because he began to think that he stinks, even though he takes a shower every day. The student with glasses felt sorry for the guy. She stopped, turned around, and said that everything is not as he thinks and she is just afraid of tickling, which is why she does not want to climb under the same umbrella. Then the girl realizes that this situation is already the most awkward in her life, after which she makes it clear that she is leaving, and the guy just silently watches her trail. Continuing to look after her, this guy continues to remain silent and still cannot understand in his head what is wrong with walking under the same umbrella. After some time, this guy was left in place completely alone, and now he is looking at the heavy downpour, wondering whether he should wait for it to end or go forward. Our main character nevertheless decided to wait for the moment when this rain stopped, and at that same moment someone began to call him by name from behind, and he responded. Turning around, our Kan Ji-won, to his surprise, saw his stepmother, who right now was all wet, but brought an umbrella for her adopted son. She reminded the main character that he forgot his umbrella, but she was in a hurry when she left the house, which is why she took only one. Then Kwon Hee-soo realized that they would have to stand under one umbrella because there was no second one, after which she decided to find out if he was okay, and the guy just began to get embarrassed. Our main character is already blushing all over. Apparently this guy is shy because he thinks that someone will see how this big boy is holding hands with his mother. The stepmother wants to clarify with Han Ji-won what he wants for dinner today, after which she offered him kimchi soup, and the main character says that he is not against it. Then the course of events is again transferred to the room where the main hero and his stepmother are sleeping after a hard day of work. The next day, we see a tired Kwon Hee-soo, who is right now sitting at the computer and realizes that last night she couldn't even sleep a wink. She remembers how she was going to leave the room after the main character fell asleep, but unexpectedly for her, he simply behaved restlessly and did not fall asleep. Suddenly, while the girl was sitting still and thinking about all sorts of events, she suddenly turned her attention to her computer and, apparently, was going to do something. She understands that she needs to find a solution to her problem as quickly as possible, after which she immediately went into her computer to look for a solution to the problem. Kwon Hee-soo found someone's post that describes approximately the same problem that she herself has, and reading this post, the girl cannot believe that such people actually exist. Kwon Hee-soo reads on the same site that there are many ways to solve this problem, and she should contact these people so that they can help her with this. However, the girl is at work right now, and some guy decided to approach her to find out if everything was okay with her, because now she has to work. Continuing to look at Kwon Hye-soo, this guy noticed that she looked quite pale, and it became clear that she was not really feeling very well. Then the girl turned towards this guy named Ji-ho, and looking at him like a zombie, she wanted to clarify whether she really looked that bad. Ji-ho says that she really doesn't look very good, and it begins to seem to him that she is angry, after which the girl begins to turn off the computer monitor. She makes it clear to the guy that she will leave early today to meet someone, which means he can also leave when he finishes his work, and the guy understood her. Looking after her, Ji-ho thinks that she is probably very worried about the project and has now gone to a meeting with a professional in their field of work. He believes that this is her flaw. She only worries about her work, and it seems to him that this makes her even more attractive. After some time, the event moves to a beautiful coffee shop where Kwon Hee-soo came to relax and have a good time. Right now, she sat down in front of her friend who is calmly drinking coffee and saying that she has one problem about which this friend is ready to listen and help. Her friend immediately realized that the problem was with the man, and Kwon Hee-soo was immediately surprised, not understanding how she even found out, and her friend says that it's all written on her lips. Kwon Hee-soo's friend decided to ask her if she had postponed her long-awaited trip because of the main character, and with great sadness, she says that she did so. Continuing to sip her drink, she talks about what she supposedly thought about her friend, and everything is fine in life without any men there. Then the girl decides to clarify who this man is who is complicating her life. In response, Kwon Hee-soo thought about it and is already about to give her answer with difficulty. She says that this is her son, and of course her friend was surprised at this turn of events and spat all her drink right on her face in surprise. Dissatisfied with this, Kwon Hee-soo begins to wipe her face with a napkin and says that this time she forgives her, but next time she shouldn't spit in her face. Holding out another pile of napkins, her friend decides to start laughing a little and asks for forgiveness for what she did to her right now. While she is handing over a stack of napkins, the girl decides to clarify with Kwon Hee-soo what is going on with her son and makes it clear that right now she is ready to listen to absolutely everything. Continuing to wipe her wet face, Kwon Hee-soo says that she doesn't even know where she should start, and at the same time she continues to think about it. Nevertheless, the girl was able to formulate her thought and already knows where she should start, after which she slowly began to tell her story. Apparently the story was very long because they didn't even show it to us, and now the whole story, as we can understand, has already come to the very end. After this story, Kwon Hee-soo wants to ask his friend her opinion about this, and whether she thinks that all this is serious, and you can understand from her face that she is in shock. The girl is very surprised that this could happen at all, and she wants to know why she allowed this to happen and why she didn't push Ji-won away. She says that she is not his real mother, and perhaps she is too sensitive. But on the other hand, it seems to her that she must behave politely with him. Next, Kwon Hee-soo remembers an old moment from Han Ji-won's childhood, where he says that he doesn't want to go to school, and she suggests that he start studying at home. Her friend says that she has not been in this place for a long time, although she should have been here to provide support. Perhaps this comes from the fact that Kwon Hye-soo is cute. Then the friend lost her temper and tells Kwon Hee-soo to quickly get up and go home. The girl does not understand what is happening, and her friend promises to come up with something. She is going to take some measures, but she tells her friend not to dare interfere in this. Kwon Hee-soo wonders if she can help her. From the expression on this girl's face, it becomes clear that she is really confident in her actions and is determined, but Kwon Hee-soo must promise that she will not interfere. It becomes clear that Kwon Hee-soo still has doubts about this idea, but she still does not limit her friend's actions and allows her to do whatever she wants. The course of events is transferred directly to the house of our main character, and we see how just at that moment, messages from his stepmother arrived on his television. We see Han Ji-won, who has just taken a shower and is reading messages from his stepmother that she is going to return home with her aunt, and she wrote this 20 minutes ago. Suddenly, right at this moment, Kwon Hee-soo enters the house and wants to clarify whether the main character is at home now because she has returned, and Han Ji-won is worried because he is not in the best shape right now. Suddenly, these women burst right into Ji-won's room, and his aunt wants to know how he's doing and makes it clear that she bought ice cream for him. Suddenly, she sharply drew attention to the fact that this guy was currently missing extra rags, and in the meantime, the girl realized that she had come in at the wrong time. From the faces of these women, it becomes clear that at the moment they are very embarrassed and don't even know what to say at this awkward moment. Seeing Ji-won's appearance, she begins to think that he has changed a lot since she remembers him. She remembers the moment when he was still a child, and they sat together and solved problems in mathematics, and Han Ji-won talked about what he learned in his lessons from the teacher. At the same moment, the girl learns that the new curriculum is different from their program, and she tells the boy that this is the first time she has heard about it. Her answer surprised the boy very much, and now it begins to seem to him that she has never studied this. The girl says that she does not know, and children in their time only consider what is beneficial to them. Then our little main character begins to run away and asks this girl not to go anywhere, because right now he is judging everything. He is going to bring something for her. Cheerful Han Ji-won brought a book on English, and since she doesn't understand mathematics, he asks her to help him with English, because she should definitely understand it. However, even now the girl doubts her abilities. She starts laughing and tells the guy that his aunt is not very strong in English, and therefore will be slow. In this case, the guy suggested taking up Korean, but the girl is not strong in it, just like in world history. Apparently she knows nothing. And then our little main character suddenly realized that his aunt was really not good at studying, after which he silently began to look at her. He understands that he can do all this himself, because children have to do their homework on their own, and his aunt, seeing this, understands that Ji-won is very smart. Then the aunt decided to kiss her little nephew on the cheek because she considers him very smart and independent. However, this boy, in turn, begins to get very embarrassed and reminds her that he asked her not to do this anymore because it's very strange. Events are transferred to the present time. We again see our main character and his aunt looking at him, remembers him as a child and does not understand how he became so ill. The girl continues to look straight into the eyes of Han Ji-won, who approached her and cannot believe what he sees in front of her, and also does not understand what he needs from her. Our main character continues to silently look straight into her face, and the girl looks at him in the same way and does not understand why he came so close to her. Suddenly she realizes that this guy has even come too close to her, and she still can't understand what he wants from her, because his behavior is very strange. Then the guy touched his aunt's face and she didn't understand why he did this, but Han Ji-won was actually trying to find out what she looked like. Suddenly Han Ji-won recognized his Aunt Kanga in this woman and immediately hugged her because they had not seen each other for a very long time, and he missed her very much. She wants the guy to let her go because he has not been the same for a long time, and the main character tells her that she has not changed at all. Then we see how the girl was completely tired of this because he almost strangled her with his hugs, after which she pushed him away, asking him to stop right away. She says that he has already become quite big, and he shouldn't hug her with such force anymore, because he just almost strangled her. In response, Han Ji-won asks her for forgiveness. He is just very happy to see her again, and right now his aunt is convinced that he did this precisely because of this.